Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the stars through the main screen. His ship carried 3,000 colonists to their new home in the Kepler 442 system. After 6 months of travel, they were finally close to their destination. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Lieutenant Amy Brooks from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. "There are ships ahead, big ones." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The readings showed massive vessels, much larger than anything humans had built. His heart started beating faster. "How many ships?" "At least 20, sir. They're moving toward us." Commander Pete Adams stepped forward. He was Jake's military officer, always ready for trouble. "Sir, those ships don't match any design in our database. They're not human." Jake felt his mouth go dry. This was humanity's first meeting with alien life. He had hoped it would be peaceful. "Try to contact them, Brooks. Send them our standard greeting message." Amy worked at her controls for several minutes. Then she shook her head. "No response, Captain. They're not answering any of our signals." The alien ships grew larger on the screen. Jake could see they were dark green and covered in sharp spikes. They looked like weapons of war, not peaceful exploration vessels. "Captain," Amy said, her voice shaking. "They're charging weapons. All of them." "Red alert," Jake shouted. The bridge lights turned red and alarms started ringing throughout the ship. "All hands to battle stations." The first alien ship fired without warning. Bright green energy beams hit the Liberty's shields. The whole ship shook and people fell from their chairs. "Return fire," Pete yelled. "Protect the colony ship." The Liberty's weapon shot back at the alien fleet. But Jake's ship was built for carrying people, not fighting wars. The aliens had warships designed for battle. More green beams hit the Liberty. Sparks flew from broken control panels. The lights went out for a moment before emergency power kicked in. "Shields down to 60%, Amy reported. "Hull damage on decks 7 and 8. Dr. Lisa Carter's voice came over the intercom from the medical bay. "Captain, I have wounded coming in. Whatever you're going to do it fast." Jake gripped. His chair as another blast shook the ship. Through the smoke and flashing lights, he watched the alien vessels surround them. There were too many to fight. "Sir, the lead alien ship is breaking away from the others," Pete said. "It's coming straight at us." On the screen, Jake saw the largest alien vessel approaching. It was twice the size of the Liberty and covered in weapon ports, but something was wrong with it. Smoke poured from several holes in its hull. "That ship is damaged," Amy said. "Looks like it took heavy fire from somewhere else." Jake realized the aliens might be fighting among themselves. "Are there other ships out there? Ships that attacked the aliens?" Amy scanned her readings. "No, sir. I think they damaged each other during their approach. Maybe they're not used to fighting in such a tight formation." The damaged alien ship fired again, but this time the beam missed. The ship seemed to be losing power. "Pete, focus all our weapons on that damaged ship," Jake ordered. "If we can take out their leader, maybe the others will back off." The Liberty's guns fired everything they had at the alien flagship. The combined attack was too much for the already damaged vessel. Explosions spread across its hull, and it started to drift. "Direct hit on their bridge area," Pete reported. "The ship is losing power." Jake saw smaller ships launching from the disabled alien vessel. They looked like escape pods heading for the other alien ships. "Captain, I'm reading one large life form still on that ship," Amy said. "It's in what looks like their command center." Pete was already moving toward the door. "I'll take a boarding team and capture whoever's left. Maybe we can get some answers." "Be careful," Jake told him. "We don't know what these aliens are capable of." Pete took 12 Marines in a shuttle to the alien ship. Jake waited on the bridge, watching the other alien vessels. They had stopped firing and seemed to be waiting to see what happened to their damaged flagship. 20 minutes later, Pete's voice came over the radio. "Captain, we found the alien commander. It's alive but badly hurt, and Captain, it's not what we expected." "What do you mean?" "The alien is female, sir. At least I think she is. She's wearing some kind of royal armor, and the other aliens were calling her queen before they evacuated. Should we bring her back to the ship?" Jake looked at the alien fleet surrounding them. They still had enough firepower to destroy the Liberty 10 times over. But they weren't shooting. Maybe their queen was more important to them than he thought. Bring her aboard, Pete. Take her to Medical Bay 3 and have Dr. Carter look at her injuries. Treat her like any other wounded prisoner. Sir, are you? Sure. She's the enemy. Jake watched the alien ships on his screen. They were still waiting, still watching. Maybe she is, Pete. Or maybe she's our only chance to prevent a war. Either way, we're going to treat her with respect. It's what separates us from monsters. As Pete's shuttle returned to the Liberty, Jake hoped he was making the right choice. The alien queen might be the key to peace, or she might be their doom. But he knew one thing for certain. How they treated their first alien prisoner would show both species what humanity truly stood for. The fate of 3,000 colonists, and possibly all of humanity, now rested on what happened next. Dr. Lisa Carter had seen many injuries during her years as a ship's doctor, but nothing like this. The alien queen lay on the medical table, unconscious and bleeding green blood from several wounds. Her skin was covered in dark green scales that shifted color in the light. She was tall, maybe 7 feet, with a strong build that spoke of a lifetime of fighting. Her bone structure is fascinating, Lisa said to her assistant, Nurse Tony Garcia. Look at these muscle attachments. She's incredibly strong. The alien queen's eyes suddenly opened. They were bright yellow with vertical pupils, like a snake's eyes. She looked around the medical bay and tried to sit up, but her injuries were too severe. Lisa stepped forward slowly. Easy there. You're hurt pretty badly. I'm a doctor. I'm trying to help you. The alien queen hissed and spoke in a language Lisa didn't understand. Her voice was deep and rough, filled with pain and anger. Tony, get the translation device, Lisa said. Maybe we can communicate with her. The small device took a few minutes to analyze the alien speech patterns. Finally, it began translating her words into English. Where are my warriors? The queen demanded. What have you done with my fleet? Your fleet is still out there, Lisa said gently. They're not attacking us right now. You're on our medical ship. I'm treating your wounds. The queen's yellow eyes narrowed. You lie, human. Your kind knows only violence and conquest. You will torture me for information about my people. Lisa was shocked by the accusation. Torture you? No, we don't do that. I'm a doctor. My job is to heal people, not hurt them. The alien queen laughed, but it was a bitter sound. Heal? You heal your enemies? What kind of weak species are you? Before Lisa could answer, Captain Morrison walked into the medical bay. The queen immediately tensed, expecting the worst from what she assumed was a military leader. How is our patient, Dr. Carter? Jake asked. She has 3 broken ribs, a concussion, and significant blood loss, Lisa reported, but she should recover fully with proper treatment. Jake nodded and looked at the alien queen. Through the translator, he said, I'm Captain Morrison. I want you to know that you're safe here. We follow certain rules about how to treat prisoners. The queen stared at him with suspicion. Rules? What rules? We don't hurt prisoners. We give them medical care, food, and shelter. We treat them with dignity, even if they were our enemies. Impossible, the queen hissed. No warrior would show such weakness to a defeated foe. You mock me with these lies. Jake pulled up a chair and sat down near the medical table. What's your name? The question seemed to surprise her. I am Queen Vexandra of the Zephyrian Empire, and you will gain nothing from me, human. I'm not trying to gain anything, Vexandra. I just wanted to know what to call you. Over the next few days, Lisa worked to heal the queen's injuries. Vexandra refused to cooperate at first, expecting tricks or traps. She wouldn't eat the food they brought, believing it might be poisoned. She wouldn't accept pain medication, thinking it was some kind of truth serum. Captain Morrison visited every day. He never asked for military information or tried to interrogate her. Instead, he would sit quietly and sometimes talk about simple things. The weather, the stars, his crew. Why do you come here? Vexandra asked him on the 3rd day. What do you want from me? Jake thought for a moment. I suppose I want to understand. Your ships attacked us without warning. We were just trying to reach our new home. Why did your people want to fight us? Vexandra was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, because that is what warriors do. We fight to prove our strength. We take what we need to survive. But why did you need to fight us? We weren't threatening you. All aliens threaten us, she said firmly. History has taught us that showing weakness leads to destruction. Better to strike first than to be struck. Jake left that day thinking about her words. The next morning, he returned with something new, a small plate of food and a book. I brought you something to eat, he said, setting the plate on a table near her bed. And I thought you might like something to read. Vexandra looked at the item suspiciously. What is this trick? No trick. The food is from our ship's kitchen. Nothing special, just what we eat every day. The book is about human history. I had the computer translated into your language. I will not eat your food, she declared. A warrior does not accept charity from enemies. Jake nodded. I understand. I'll just leave it here in case you change your mind. He did the same thing the next day, and the day after that. Each time, he brought a small amount of food and left it on the table. He never demanded that she eat it or made her feel weak for not eating. He also brought different books, stories about human culture, poetry, and philosophy. On the fourth day, Lisa noticed that some of the food was gone. Vexandra had eaten it during the night when no one was watching. The books had also been moved and opened. She's reading them, Lisa told Jake. I think she's curious about us. Jake smiled. Good. Maybe if she understands us better, she'll realize we're not monsters. When Jake visited that evening, Vexandra was holding one of the books. It was about human concepts of justice and mercy. These stories, she said slowly, they speak of humans who help their enemies, who show kindness to those who have wronged them. Are these real or just fantasies? They're real, Jake said. Some of the greatest humans in our history were people who chose mercy over revenge. Vexandra's scaled brow furrowed. But why? Why would anyone help someone who tried to kill them? Jake sat down in his usual chair. Because we learned something important a long time ago. Hatred and revenge create more enemies, but kindness and understanding can turn enemies into friends. That sounds like weakness, Vexandra said, but her voice was less certain than before. Maybe, Jake admitted. But I've found that the strongest people are often the ones who choose to be gentle when they could choose to be cruel. That night, Vexandra lay awake thinking about the strange humans who had captured her. Everything she had been taught about strength and conquest was being challenged by their actions. They had shown her mercy when she expected torture. They fed her when she was hungry and healed her when she was hurt. For the first time in her life, Queen Vexandra began to wonder if there might be more than one way to be strong. By the end of the first week, Queen Vexandra's injuries had mostly healed. Dr. Carter was amazed at how quickly the alien queen's body repaired itself. But more surprising was how much Vexandra had changed in other ways. She no longer hissed when humans entered her room. She had started eating the food they brought without hiding it. Most importantly, she had begun asking questions about the books Captain Morrison brought her. This story about your Civil War, she said when Jake visited that morning. It says, your people fought each other for years, then became united again. How is this possible? Jake settled into his chair. Over the past week, these conversations had become the best part of his day. It wasn't easy. A lot of people died. But eventually we realized that we were stronger together than apart. Your leader, this Abraham Lincoln. He could have destroyed his enemies completely after winning. Why did he show them mercy instead? Because he understood something important, Jake explained. You can't build a strong nation on fear and hatred. Real strength comes from bringing people together, not tearing them apart. Vexandra was quiet for a moment. In Zephyrian culture, mercy is considered the greatest weakness. We are taught that enemies must be destroyed completely, or they will return to destroy you. Has that philosophy worked well for your people? Jake asked gently. The question seemed to hit something deep inside her. We have survived, she said slowly. But we have also been alone. Always fighting, always afraid, always looking over our shoulders for the next threat. Jake leaned forward. Vexandra, can I ask you something? Why did your ships attack us when we arrived? We weren't threatening anyone. The alien queen looked away, and for the first time, Jake saw something that looked like shame in her yellow eyes. Because, she said quietly, we thought you had come to take our new home from us. Your new home. But we've never been to this system before. Vexandra was silent for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was filled with old pain. The Kepler 442 system was supposed to be our salvation. We had been traveling for 50 years to reach it. 50 years? Where did you come from? Our homeworld was called Zephyr Prime, she began. It was beautiful. Vast oceans under purple skies, cities that reached into the clouds, forests filled with creatures that glowed in the darkness. We were not always warriors, Captain Morrison. Once we were artists and philosophers, and dreamers. Jake sat quietly, sensing that this was important. Then the star storms came. Vexandra continued. Massive solar flares that lasted for months. They destroyed our atmosphere and turned our oceans to steam. In less than a year, our paradise became a dead rock floating in space. I'm sorry, Jake said softly. That must have been terrible. We barely escaped with our lives. Millions died. Those who survived were loaded onto whatever ships we could build. We became wanderers, searching for a new home. And during those 50 years of travel, Vexandra's voice grew bitter. We learned that the universe was not kind to refugees. Every species we encountered saw us as invaders or pests. Some attacked us on sight. Others pretended to help, then tried to enslave us. We learned that showing weakness or asking for help only led to suffering. Jake began to understand. So when you saw our ships approaching this system, we thought you were another species trying to steal what little we had found. The planets here can support our people. They were our last hope. She looked at Jake with something approaching respect. We attacked first because experience taught us that mercy is something we could not afford. But you were wrong about us, Jake said. Yes, she admitted. Everything about your people confuses me. You captured me, your enemy, and instead of using me as a weapon against my fleet, you heal my wounds and bring me books. You could have tortured me for information about our weaknesses, but instead you ask about my people's history and listen to our pain. Dr. Carter entered the medical bay at that moment, carrying her daily examination equipment. Sorry to interrupt. Time for the Queen's checkup. As Lisa examined her, Vexandra asked, Dr. Carter, may I ask you something? Of course. You have studied my biology for days now. You know how my people's bodies work, where we are vulnerable. Why do you share this knowledge with me instead of keeping it secret for your military? Lisa looked surprised by the question. Because you're my patient. It's your body. You have a right to know about your own health. Even though I am your enemy. You're not my enemy, Lisa said simply. You're someone who was hurt and needed help. That's all I see when I look at you. After Lisa left, Vexandra stared at the ceiling for a long time. Your people, she said to Jake. They see the universe very differently than mine do. How so? We see enemies and threats everywhere. You seem to see potential friends. Jake smiled. Maybe that's because we've learned something your people haven't had the chance to learn yet. Which is that making friends is usually easier than making enemies, and friends are a lot more useful in the long run. That afternoon, alarms suddenly began ringing throughout the ship. Jake's communicator crackled to life with Pete Adams' voice. Captain, to the bridge immediately. We have a situation. Jake stood up quickly. I have to go. We'll continue this conversation later. Captain, Vexandra called out as he reached the door. The alarms. Is it my people? Jake turned back. Probably. Are they coming to rescue you? Yes, she said quietly. and they will not be as patient with your mercy as I have been. My fleet commander, General Korath, believes that showing kindness to enemies is a disease that spreads if not stopped quickly. Jake felt his heart sink. How long do we have? If they are following standard protocol, they will demand my return within 1 hour. If you refuse, they will destroy your ship to prevent my contamination by your ideas. As Jake hurried toward the bridge, he realized that everything was about to change. The fragile understanding he had built with Vexandra might be the only thing standing between peace and the complete destruction of both fleets. Behind him, the alien queen sat alone in her medical bed, staring at the human books scattered around her. For the first time in 50 years, she faced a choice that her warrior training had never prepared her for. Loyalty to the old ways that had kept her people alive, or faith in a new path that might save them all. The fate of 2 species now hung in the balance, and the decision rested with a queen who had just begun to question everything. She thought she knew about strength, mercy, and what it truly meant to protect the people she loved. Jake rushed onto the bridge to find his crew working frantically at their stations. Through the main screen, he could see the Zephyrian fleet had moved closer. Their ships were arranged in an attack formation that made their intentions clear. "Report," Jake ordered as he took his captain's chair. "The alien fleet started moving toward us 20 minutes ago," Commander Pete Adams said. "They're demanding the return of their queen. They've given us exactly 1 hour to comply." Lieutenant Amy Brooks looked up from her communications station. "Sir, they're also demanding that we surrender our entire crew for processing. They say we've committed crimes against their queen." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of processing?" The translation isn't clear, but it doesn't sound good. Through the deck plates, Jake could feel the ship's engines humming as his crew prepared for either flight or fight. But he knew they couldn't outrun the alien fleet, and they certainly couldn't win a battle against so many warships. "Sir?" Amy said urgently. "I'm getting a communication request from Queen Vexandra. She says it's urgent." Jake hurried back to the medical bay where he found Vexandra standing by the window, looking out at her fleet. Her injuries had healed enough that she could move around freely now. "Captain," she said without turning around, "you need to return me to my people immediately." "Why? What will happen if we don't?" She finally faced him, and Jake could see fear in her yellow eyes. "General Korath commands the fleet now. He is my military advisor, but he has never approved of my leadership. He thinks I am too soft, too willing to consider alternatives to warfare. And now? Now he has the perfect excuse to remove me from power. He will tell the other commanders that I have been corrupted by human weakness, that your mercy has made me unfit to lead." Jake sat down heavily. "So if we return you, you'll lose your position, and if we don't return you, they'll attack us." "Yes," Vexandra said quietly. "But there is a third option." "Which is?" "I could try to convince my people that your way is better than ours, but it would be very dangerous. If I fail, both our species could be destroyed." Before Jake could respond, Pete's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, the alien fleet is powering up all weapons. We have 30 minutes left." Jake looked at Vexandra. "What would you need to convince your people?" "A demonstration that human mercy is not weakness but strength. Something that would shock them enough to listen to new ideas." "What kind of demonstration?" Vexandra was quiet for a moment, thinking. "In Zephyrian culture, the greatest act of trust is when a leader puts themselves completely at the mercy of their enemies. It shows ultimate faith in their own righteousness." Jake began to understand. "You want to return to your fleet and try to change their minds." "No," she said firmly. "I want you to come with me." The suggestion hit Jake like a physical blow. "You want me to surrender myself to your people? The same people who want to process my crew?" "Not surrender. Come as my equal, under my protection. Show them that humans can be trusted partners, not just victims or enemies." Jake stood up and paced around the small medical bay. Everything in his training told him this was insane. He would be putting himself completely at the mercy of aliens who had already proven they preferred violence to diplomacy. But then he thought about the 3,000 colonists on his ship, about the families who had traveled 6 months to start new lives, about the children who deserved a chance to grow up in peace. "If I do this," he said slowly, "what guarantee do I have that you can protect me?" "None," Vexandra admitted. "General Korath may have me arrested the moment I speak against our military traditions, but I have learned something from you, Captain Morrison. Sometimes the strongest choice is the one that requires the most trust." Jake's communicator buzzed. "Captain," Pete's voice was tense. 20 minutes remaining. The alien ships are targeting our engines and life support systems." Jake looked at Vexandra. In the past week, he had seen her change from a bitter warrior queen into someone who questioned the very foundations of her culture. If she was willing to risk everything for peace, could he do any less? "All right," he said finally. "But I have conditions. Name them." "First, if something happens to me, you make sure my crew and colonists are allowed to continue to their destination safely." Vexandra nodded. "Agreed. Second, we bring Dr. Carter with us. If we're going to convince your people that humans can be trusted, they need to see more than just one person." "That is wise. What else?" Jake took a deep breath. "And if this goes badly, if your General Korath decides to have us all killed, I want you to know that I don't regret showing you kindness, even if it ends up getting us all destroyed." For the first time since he had known her, Vexandra smiled. It was a small expression, barely visible on her alien features, but it was genuine. "Captain Morrison," she said, "in my language we have a concept called thekful. It means the courage to do what is right even when death is certain. I had thought it was just an old legend, something from before we became warriors. But you have shown me it is real." 10 minutes later, Jake stood in the shuttle bay with Dr. Carter and Queen Vexandra. His crew thought he had lost his mind. Pete had actually tried to stop him from leaving the ship. "Sir, this is suicide," Pete had argued. "Let me go instead." "No, Pete. If this works, it has to be me, the captain making the choice. And if it doesn't work," Jake had clasped his friend's shoulder, "take care of the colonists. Get them to their new home." Now, as their shuttle approached the massive Zephyrian flagship, Jake could see weapon ports tracking their movement. One wrong word from General Korath, and they would be vaporized instantly. "Are you ready?" Vexandra asked. Jake looked at Dr. Carter, who gave him a nervous but determined nod. "Ready as we'll ever be." As their shuttle docked with the alien ship, Jake realized he was about to discover whether human compassion was truly strong enough to change an entire civilization. The next few hours would determine if mercy could triumph over millennia of warfare, or if his act of trust would become the spark that ignited a war between the stars. The shuttle doors opened, and Jake stepped into an alien world where his life would depend entirely on the word of a queen who had learned about mercy from the very people her culture was taught to destroy. The inside of the Zephyrian flagship was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The corridors were tall and wide, built for beings much larger than humans. Strange symbols glowed along the walls, and the air smelled of metal and something that reminded him of cinnamon. Zephyrian warriors lined their path, tall, scaled beings with yellow eyes that tracked every movement Jake and Dr. Carter made. Their hands rested on weapons that looked capable of cutting a human in half. "Stay close to me," Vexandra whispered, "and whatever happens, do not show fear. My people respect courage above all else." They entered a massive chamber where dozens of Zephyrian officers waited. At the center stood the largest alien Jake had seen yet, General Korath. His scales were darker than the others, almost black, and scars covered his arms and face. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding stone. "Queen Vexandra," he said in accented English, "you return to us changed. These humans have poisoned your mind with their weakness." "I return to you enlightened," Vexandra replied firmly. "These humans have shown me that there are many kinds of strength." Korath's yellow eyes fixed on Jake. "And you, human captain, you come here knowing you will likely die. Is this the famous human intelligence we have heard about?" Jake stepped forward, fighting every instinct that told him to run. I come here hoping to prevent unnecessary death, General. Your people and mine don't have to be enemies. The General laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. Enemies? Human, you misunderstand. We do not consider you worthy of being enemies. You are pests to be eliminated, nothing more. Then why haven't you destroyed us already? Dr. Carter asked suddenly. Every alien in the room turned to look at her, and Jake felt his heart stop, but Lisa continued bravely. If we're just pests, why negotiate at all? Why not simply attack? Korath's expression darkened. Because our queen has been contaminated by your species' disease of mercy. But that will be corrected. No, Vexandra said loudly. It will not be corrected because it is not a disease. It is evolution. The chamber fell silent. Jake could hear his own heartbeat as every alien stared at their queen. General Korath, Vexandra continued, for 50 years we have wandered the stars as refugees. For 50 years we have fought everyone we met, trusted no one, made no allies. Where has this path led us? To survival, Korath growled. To isolation, Vexandra countered. To constant fear. To a future where our children will know nothing but war and hatred. She gestured toward Jake and Dr. Carter. These humans had every reason to hate us. We attacked them without provocation. We tried to destroy their colony ship. Yet when they captured me, what did they do? They showed weakness, another officer called out. They showed me medical care, Vexandra said. They fed me when I was hungry. They gave me knowledge about their culture. They treated me not as an enemy to be broken, but as a person to be understood. General Korath stepped closer to the Queen, and in return, they gained information about our fleet, our weaknesses, our plans. No, Vexandra said firmly. Captain Morrison never asked me for military information, not once. He could have tortured me for our ship designs, our weapon capabilities, our fleet positions. Instead, he brought me books about human philosophy. Books? Korath sounded disgusted. You were defeated by books? I was educated by books, Vexandra replied. I learned that there are species in this universe who solve problems through cooperation instead of conquest, who build strength through alliance instead of domination. Jake realized this was the moment when everything would be decided. He stepped forward again. General Korath, he said, what if I told you that humans and Zephyrians could both have what we want without fighting? Impossible, Korath snapped. The habitable worlds in this system are limited. Only one species can claim them. Actually, Dr. Carter said, pulling out a small device. That's not true. She activated the device and a holographic display appeared showing the Kepler 442 system. There are 6 planets here that can support life. 3 are perfect for human colonization, 2 are ideal for Zephyrian biology, and 1 could be shared by both species. The alien stared at the display in surprise. You would share worlds with us? One of the officers asked. Why not? Jake said. Your people are refugees looking for a home. Our people are colonists looking for a new beginning. We could help each other instead of destroying each other. General Korath looked angry. And when your species grows stronger, when you outnumber us, what then? You will drive us out just like every other species has tried to do. No, Jake said firmly, because we'll be allies, partners. We'll have sworn oaths to protect each other. Human oaths mean nothing, Korath snarled. Then let me prove it, Jake said. He reached into his jacket slowly, aware that a dozen weapons were trained on him. He pulled out a small device, his personal communicator. This device can contact my ship, he said. Right now, my crew could escape. They could flee this system and leave you and me both here. But watch what happens when I give them a different order. Jake activated the communicator. Pete, this is Captain Morrison. Sir, are you all right? We're ready to come get you. Negative, Commander. I want you to power down all weapons and send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've found a peaceful solution to the first contact situation. Tell them we're going to share the Kepler 442 system with our new Zephyrian allies. There was a long pause. Sir, are you under duress? Say the word pineapple if you're being forced to say this. Jake smiled. No duress, Pete. We're making history. Here. Humanity's first interstellar alliance. Understood, sir. Powering down weapons now. Jake looked around the chamber. My ship just made itself completely defenseless to show good faith. If I'm lying about our peaceful intentions, you can destroy them right now with no resistance. The chamber was completely silent. Jake could see confusion and uncertainty on the faces of the Zephyrian officers. This was not how their enemies were supposed to behave. Queen Vexandra stepped into the center of the chamber. My people, she said, we stand at a crossroads. We can continue down the path of endless warfare, always afraid, always alone. Or we can choose a new path. We can choose to build instead of destroy, to create instead of conquer. And if the humans betray us? Korath demanded. Then we will be no worse off than we are now. Vexandra replied. But if they prove trustworthy, we will have gained something our people haven't had in 50 years, friends. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some officers supported their queen's vision of cooperation. Others sided with General Korath's preference for conquest. But gradually, the mood in the chamber began to shift. Dr. Carter's scientific data about the planets was convincing. Jake's willingness to put himself in danger showed courage that even the most warlike Zephyrians could respect. And Queen Vexandra's passionate arguments about building a better future for their children touched something deep in the hearts of a people who had been homeless for half a century. Finally, an old female officer stood up. I remember Zephyr, Prime, she said quietly. I remember when we were more than just warriors. When we built beautiful things and dreamed of tomorrow instead of fearing it. She looked at Vexandra. Perhaps it is time to remember how to dream again. One by one, the other officers began to nod in agreement. Even some of Korath's supporters started to waver. General Korath himself stood silent for a long moment, looking at the holographic display of the system they could share instead of fight over. Finally, he spoke. If we do this, he said slowly, and the humans prove false, I will personally hunt down every one of their leaders. Understood, Jake said. And if we prove true, I hope you'll be there to help us build something amazing. 6 months later, Jake stood on the observation deck of New Harmony Station, the first human Zephyrian joint facility. Through the transparent, aluminum windows, he could see the planet below. Half human cities with their geometric designs, half Zephyrian settlements with their flowing, organic architecture. Queen Vexandra joined him at the window. Over the months, she had become not just an ally, but a true friend. Do you ever regret it, she asked, taking such a huge risk on my people? Jake smiled. Every day I see human and Zephyrian children playing together, learning each other's languages and sharing each other's games. Every day I watch our scientists working together to solve problems that neither species could handle alone. No, I don't regret it. The latest reports from Earth show that 3 more colony ships are coming, Vexandra said. And my people have agreed to share protection duties for all human settlements in this region. Strength through cooperation, Jake said. Strength through compassion, Vexandra corrected. You taught me that the greatest power in the universe isn't the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to show mercy when destruction would be easier. As they watched the sun set over the mixed cities below, Jake reflected on how one simple choice, to treat an enemy with kindness, had changed the fate of 2 species. Humanity had found its first alien allies not through superior weapons or advanced technology, but through something much more powerful, the courage to see potential friends in the faces of their enemies. The universe was vast and full of unknowns, but for the first time in either species' history, they would face those unknowns together.